Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of A Talk with the Elementals. This is going to be a unique episode. Well, for one, you're seeing our new living room, or part of it, at our new place. Sorry for the lack of some Patreon posts lately. We haven't had a lot of chances to do some recordings because of a lot of interferences and other things we're doing. So apologies for that. But this is going to be a unique episode because there was a group of elementals that came in contact with me while we were in Japan. And we went to a place called Niko Temple. And I'll display some images of it for you right here as I'm speaking. And it was a very neat looking temple, as you can see in the photos. Very high energy there. A lot of nature around, a lot of trees. And I went to go pick up a rock, which is now this rock right here. And I went to pick that up and take it with me, and I heard a voice that actually said to me, "And what will you be leaving?" And I ended up leaving a resin shungite ring, which was sufficient for them. And I put it in a place where nobody could take it from. It was on a little ledge that overlooked down into a ravine. And it looks like somebody had put like a little place there to put offerings, because there were a few other coins and stuff in there. And I put it in there. And these beings that were there, I could see them. They were elementals, and they were all female from what I could see. They looked like a female tree. You know, if you saw like a female figure, but with like tree bark texture. And they had a similar looking being on the show Doctor Who back in 2005. That they were supposed to be trees. And somebody doesn't want me talking because I'm starting to choke now, so give me just a second here. Oh, somebody is not wanting me to talk. It's probably why we've gotten some interferences because of this. But what happened was with these elementals, they look like female trees, and it was my belief, and maybe they'll confirm this. It was my belief at the time that they were guarding some kind of secret portal or doorway that was on the temple grounds, as I sensed a portal there, or a stargate of some sort, a big one. And it's my belief that they were guarding the earthly end of it, very much like the Antiqua would guard portals, you know, the Anubis figures with the staff, you know, they would stand in front of portals, and Sasquatch do the same, and other beings do the same, evidently, like these beings. And this rock, and you know, the more I've been looking at it, there's like this face with a nose bridge here and two eyes. And there is a being that has spoken through this stone and has wanted me to keep him or her? Yeah, you're definitely all female. Okay, she wants to be kept outside, even in our environment. Even though it's a vastly different topography and environment, she wants to be outside. And I had this stone in a box when we moved. And I didn't understand why I kept it in a box that smelled like incense. Now that I know, because she wanted to be around that. I ran, when we were at the temple, this was the rock I picked up, as I said. And at the time, they were very apprehensive to speak. I wanted to film an episode of this while we were on temple grounds. Do a channeling while on temple grounds, and for some reason they did not want that to take place. Sometimes they don't like people you're with, sometimes they don't like the energies that have converged at a certain time. It depends on the being, what their toxicity level and tolerance is, what their density level and tolerance is. And this is what we ran into. That they said eventually one day they would communicate. Well, it's been a year since we've been in Japan, unbelievably. and now they're reaching out to talk after all this time. And apparently they will deliberate for a very lengthy amount of time, very much like the Ents in Lord of the Rings, where they say they take a long time to say anything. That's how these beings do it. They deliberate slowly. Okay, is this guy okay? But this person is not. This energy is, and this energy is not. That's kind of how they think, I believe. That's what I'm picking up on. And yeah, I'm not sure who this being is. I know they're part of that temple. They're using this stone to transmit, and yeah, you can even see the eyes move on the stone. One is kind of an inny eye, and the other one's kind of like an outie. But yeah, they look very human-like. It's just that they are like almost like a fae or fairy type. But I've seen images that concur with that in like Japanese myth and Japanese folklore, and also Scandinavian folklore as well. So you can say these are a type of fairy in a way, or like a wood nymph or something of that nature. Our terms are maybe slightly different than theirs, but but I found this very, very interesting. I remember even seeing an image while we were over there of like beings that had like tree features, like in anime and stuff like that look very similar. Human embellishments and stuff like that, but it was very similar to how these beings appear. So something is really not wanting. My throat's getting very, very scratchy as we're trying to talk about this. And yeah, this is the kind of interferences we run into. Just like today, when we were out, I saw some reptilians roaming around at the store, military roaming around there, but they were very interested in what I was thinking about and what I was who I was talking to. Very surprised that I could see them as well, like usual. So we'll start talking to this being now. Do you want to say your name before the channel or right now? What's your name? Okay, we'll go with your collective name. What is your race name, or do you want to just say it? Okay, yeah, they'll just say it in channel. Okay. What? No, they keep insisting that people over there wear T-shirts with their images on them. Okay, or have come up with creative ideas or something that they wear T-shirts or clothing or something that reflects what they look like.
And they don't know it?
They don't know it.
Oh, okay.
No, they don't know it. No, that's how some creative vibes come through the Akashic. It will end up going from a being such as this, or a person, like a human, and it gets dumped into the benevolent Akashic grid, benevolent galactic grids, and it circulates around and it comes through as creativity. So the fact that these beings are on the planet with us, more likely people are picking up on it, and they're coming up with some really neat looks for characters in shows or cartoons or T-shirts or some kind of advertising thing or something like that. So Japan was full of those colorful advertisements and stuff over there. So this actually, I can understand why these beings are saying that. So okay. All right. You want to go with this? So you want me to hold the stone, or do you want me to just leave on my lap? On a lap. Okay.
Sorry, that's the washer.
Yeah.
I got a heavy load in.
Okay, I was wondering what that noise was. Okay. Figured it was another.
Sorry, everyone.
Yeah.
But we're in the house.
Well, we're in the house doing house things, so Isaac said we've been playing house too well. Okay,
I probably, you want me to go get it?
yeah, okay. Yeah, because that's going to be very distracting, so.
It stopped itself right now.
Oh, it's done?
Yeah, just right at the end.
Okay.
You may hear a buzzer, but if you do, it's the dryer going off.
Okay. I'll just edit this out, it's fine. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Isaac tried to make a joke towards them and said instead of tan lines, they have bark lines and wood grains and stuff like that. Not his, somebody in here just said not his best work. Okay. Yeah. Oh, Balzer and Jalopy and them are sitting up there. That's probably them that said that. Okay. Yeah, we have them scattered throughout the house, so you hear their voices in here periodically now. So, right. Oh, they have to keep it brief? Okay. Even with this conduit? Even with the stone conduit? Okay. I figured an edifice was better grounding, but okay.
I'm so sorry.
You're gonna have to shut that off. That's very distracting.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought it was done.
Are you almost done?
Well, I don't know how to work it, Chris. Okay? There was no stop. Sorry. And I may have just. Sorry. Very much so.
We sway in the wind very much like your branches and leaves, and move with the movements of the dryads on the trees. You see us, but you do not know that you are looking at a face. You feel us, but you believe it to be just the whims of the wind and nature, which is still true. However, we exist in tandem with particular sites there in Japan, and also there are a few of us now on this end of your ocean, your Pacific Ocean. We generally take energetic fields and morph them or translate them and transmute them into applicable energies to heal and to communicate and to protect. He is indeed correct. We were and still are guarding a portal there in the Niko temple area, as you call it. We could not speak to you in depth then because of the fact that certain energies did not align. Also, he is correct. People that were there with, and also toxic energies therein. We will not go into this currently, but suffice to say, your word would be needing pristine energies to actually communicate, and also our protection duties would have to come first, negating any open conversation. It is appreciated that you wish to talk to us, but we were indeed wanting to communicate. But as he said, it takes us a time to decide, and other priorities took precedence. But in the state of affairs you find yourselves in currently, with all the virus information and all of the mayhem and havoc being wreaked, as you would say, across your land, we have seen and seized, as you would say, a golden opportunity to communicate. Even though there is fear in the air, we can still transmit so long as there is an anchor point, and we notice that energy is needed to be transmuted over here more so than over there, but we cannot delegate but a few to do the task. The ancient site of Niko Temple had other things there prior to the temple being built. There was a, well, you would call it a platform or a transmutation, as you would say, vortex or chakra point. We did not always come from your earth. The ones that exist there now, including myself, are a descendant lineage of the original colonists. We are interdimensional, as you would say, also coming in and out of space-time folds and dimensional folds, density folds, you would also say. We aren't necessarily completely physical either, even though we have physical attributes when we enter your realm. We take the appearance of a female form because not only is this more pleasing to people in communications, but this is the form that we have become by crossing your dimensional lines into your physics. We have a certain appearance when we come into your realm and then go back to our realm, which has a different set of physics rules, but they all still can be mutually beneficial and interchangeable. A different set of equations, some said. As you would see your realm as having 3 dimensions, or 4 dimensions, or even 5. You see physical objects, you see a direction up, down, diagonal, sideways, sun and moon and stars, planet orbiting a sun. This is unique for us since our realm has none of these. But yet when we came into your realm, we automatically adapted to your planetary system and your elemental code, as you would call it. This seemed to be most applicable, and the earth agreed that we would be elementals on your world and hers. The fact that we took the shape we did is very interesting to us because we look very much like yourselves, but as he said, with bark-like texture. Our race has a name that is hard to translate into your languages. It is more of an idea when we entered this realm. We did not have a name to give prior to entering this realm and adapting to your environments. You would see us as more fey-like, fairy-like, but that is a more nondescript term. We would be called by your people tree guardians or guardians of the sky in some cultures, or wood nymphs or fairies, but that is again not a nondescript term or nondescript term. We did also have histories in your Scandinavian cultures as well, as was pointed out, and some of your Celtic mythology as well. And even some here. Even though we did not spend too much time here, we have had contact with people on this continent. This is a time of communication now between us, and we know that it is very vital that your people have other means of, not necessarily entertainment per se, but other means of carrying yourselves forward, you would say, or changing the environment and energies around you. This is something that we can assist with. We know it is a skeptical time where beings aren't always trusted as they once were because of the deceptions of a limited few that have polluted the minds of people. We have no quarrel with anyone, save as the ones you call Orion and Syrian beings. They were the ones that spent the most amount of time attempting to find and locate our people for uses of unique DNA structures and uses of unique energies that they did not know how to cultivate, but figured that they could use it to their advantage. And we could not allow this, and we had the ability to blend with the environment, and the environments that they found toxic to themselves, certain stones, certain minerals, certain areas of your world that they could not tread and still cannot tread. Niko Temple being one. Normally chakra points, they would, as you would say, bastardize them. This is also a reason for a temple being constructed. But in their haste to gain an energy collection unit, they did not seem to realize that the energy was incompatible for their own matrices. And they have since abandoned the site. This is why we could not allow Syrian-based codes to enter our realm. Not that we have anything against all of them, but it is, as you would say, a certain track record of the species. No offense to any good tribes that are out there, just the coding carries with it a certain weight or connotation that we could not allow within our realm. So, at this point, I can take questions.
Well, thank you for coming. You know, even a year later, I know that we're a bit actually surprised in a very happy way. So, I am curious about going back and forth to your realm to this realm. Is this something literally like you use the portal or use something and you literally keep crossing back and forth? or do you guys, the descendant lineage, mainly stay here on Earth?
We can cross back and forth. We need an aperture or opening in order to keep receiving, as you would say, updated codexes from our realm, or codes from our realm, or information from our realm, and that is the portal that was sensed in the Niko temple area. This is how we entered your realm to begin with. We can choose to stay here, but we always must have a connection to our realm, very much like how you would have a lifeline, a silver thread, as you would call it, to your body, and light body and soul, as you would say. Or to be more direct, a diver in a diving suit must have an oxygen apparatus in order to breathe. This is a lifeline to our realm that the Orions and the Draco in them cannot access, because it is far too toxic to their matrices to access. So it is very much also like having a fish in a bowl with either salt water or fresh water, or whatever oxygenation to the water they require. Even though the earth provides, we must still have an opening to our realm.
Okay, and so some races have said when they come here and they stay here because of the differences of the magnetic field or all of the other physics factors to this planet, that their offspring start to change their appearance. But because of the fact that you guys have the continued access to your realm, when you cross back over, are you exactly as you would have been if you never came here?
Indeed, we have adapted very little to here, changing in appearance, that is. Even though some species do change over time, we cannot necessarily move too much further away from our apertures or portals, so therefore we can receive codes, or we can access the portals of others in order to do it, but it is not as efficient. This is why we are choosing to speak through this stone edifice from Niko Temple, because it has an entanglement to our realm as well, and we're able to use it as an amplification point. But to be more direct, if we had no access to our realm, we would indeed adapt to your magnetic fields and your energy fields, and it completely changed shape. This is not something that we wished to do, so therefore always being close to one of our apertures was more apt.
So the realm that you're actually from, besides having, I guess it was a natural formation to come here. It was something that was there that, so do you have these openings to other places as well? Other worlds, other places from wherever your realm is? Is there multiple choices of experiences to walk through and to be somewhere different, or is it just here?
Indeed, yes. We have chosen to explore other worlds, some that have no name in your histories, some that do have names in your histories, but we have chosen to withdraw from some of those worlds, even though we used to explore quite, as you would say, prolifically, until the situation here on Earth is dealt with and corrected. We noticed that Earth is a major, as you would say, nexus point of many different realms and code combinations, and we noticed that this was a place to actually, as you would say, hang out until certain events take place on your world. You would call it the changing of the densities, or the ending to the Mandela effect. We are here to witness these things and actually help correct some of the codes and some of the energies that exist here that inhibit that process or stall it in some fashion, even though there's technically not a stalling process, but you would see it as such. So we have withdrawn from other realms and other areas to actually help bring those codes from those areas that we saw, from those different Gaia sources, you would say, and those consciousnesses on those planets that wish to assist here. They asked us to actually deliver codes into your Akashic grid, or benevolent Akashic grid, or benevolent galactic Akashic grids, as you would call them. So they asked us to slip on in and do that while we were here. Even though we were here long before then, we had discovered those other worlds before, and they were, as you would say, tipping us off to what needed to be done here.
Okay, so your initial explorations of this area, were you here prior to this world, changing to, the farming kind of planet? Were you here before that? Or did you not start exploring until after the negativity kind of entrenched itself?
We were indeed here before the negativity hit, but we withdrew to our realm and to other areas and other planets before anything hit here. But then we were able to come back through the same aperture and come back periodically over the ages to see the progression of some of the oppression and the progression of some of the human recreation, let's just say, in the genome, and the different, as you would say, alien influences in the genome. We were curious about this, but the Orions and the Draco ended up being very curious about us. They cannot harm us, nor will we harm them. We have more of a pacifistic code to us, that we will not engage in battle with any of these beings unless we absolutely must, to protect our realm and protect ourselves or anyone around us that is of a, as you would say, not necessarily certain vibration, but of a peaceful nature or balanced nature. This has happened at several points in your histories, but since the Orions were very interested in our genetic code, we had to limit communications in that respect. But we have seen a grand breadth of your human history over a long period of time, seen empires rise and fall, and seen needless warfare on your planet. This is also another reason that we have hesitated to communicate.
So, however, picking the spot, that's wrong, I shouldn't say that. The spot was picked. The spot was picked where your aperture came through. It wasn't something you picked. So, and you were here long. So, you must have been actively trying to influence to have the temple put there in order to expand the area around your aperture. Because it is a temple holy space. So it's not just right around your aperture that's the Syrians and the Orions can't come into. It's the whole temple grounds, isn't it?
Indeed, the entire temple grounds is heavily toxic to their energy matrices. And if they were to walk onto the temple grounds, they would literally melt, as you would say, very much like your witch in The Wizard of Oz melting at the touch of water. It is very similar that what happens with Orions and some reptilian forms. They will literally melt within certain energies, and even certain waters will indeed do this. This is where they got that idea from. They can indeed have this happen to them. And the temple grounds, to answer your other question, yes, we influenced that to be built, so there was more of a fortified position around our aperture. We knew the humans, no matter what religious connotation they held, would protect the grounds with their lives. So we needed that particular set of influence. We did not influence them more than we wanted the spot built. We did not influence them to do any harm to anyone. It was just consider the site holy, which it still would be considered even without our influence. The earth herself influences in a much greater breadth than we do and can influence holy sites. Now, do the Orions do the same in the negative connotation? Indeed, like with your Catholic Church and some of your heavily worshipped sites, indeed, they wish for that energy, but they can never accomplish it on the site we have fortified.
And in general, talk about once it was built, once the site was built, talk about your relationship. Some of those people there had to know you existed.
Yeah.
I mean, there had to be some sort of relationship, even though it may not be something that they, maybe, I don't know if they have ever spoken about their relationship with you publicly, or, you know what I mean? So talk about that a little bit.
They have never spoken about our relationship publicly, but we have spoken to them at length about what needed to be accomplished over centuries times. The people are quite aware of our existence, or at least the ones that guard these sites. There are other sites in Japan in particular that are guarded for this particular reason, not other apertures with our unique set of codes, but other apertures that may go to other realms and other places. And those monks that guard those temples know to actually protect those portals. There are other beings that may protect those portals as well, very much like we are. But these monks have a particular relationship with either the elemental races or other galactic races to help guard those portals. So there are deep set relationships with different priests and monks around the island country of Japan and in different parts of your planet to actually guard sacred and holy sites. Now, have the Orions also set up similar things that guard their particular assets and interests, and other races that have set up things that guard particular assets and interests that are not for the highest good of humanity? Yes, of course. But these are actually beginning to dwindle as time goes on and as the energies change. But there are still races with many, many agendas that do these very things around your world. You've been told close to 40. That is actually more of a conservative estimate if you do not include all the interdimensional races like ourselves. But we do not have, as you would say, a non-cohesive agenda. But these priests and these monks, especially high priests and monks, have been told to guard these particular doorways, and will always tell people that there are treasures there, but the treasure is nature, or the treasure is the relationship with the earth. These are what we and other races have told to tell people.
So when you guys look up Niko, one of the interesting things about it is it's known as the most beautifully colored, ornate temple, because it just, there's so many colors that are used. It's just beautifully painted in this, that, the other, one of the main temples. Mm-hmm. So talk about, I'm assuming you must have a love of some sort of aesthetics or colors or something, because you've influenced so much. That must be a part also of representation of your likes.
Indeed, it is a representation of what our realm appears would appear to the human eye, and how the colors would translate into your set of physics and energetics. But we also had to make it reflective to also keep out Orion and Draconian intruders and other demonic, as you would call them, intruders, because they do not like staring at their own reflection. We actually helped aid in the mirroring, or the mirror technique, of getting rid of particular entities. We're not the only ones that have come up with this or used this particular technique, but we noticed that it was a very quick way to get rid of Orion presences around the temple. So this is why some of the colors were very reflective, and also certain colors reflect and repel and or absorb different entity and energy types, or transmute different energy and energy types. This is something that we discovered while doing research in your realm on how these different entities react to different colors, different substances, different metals, different stones. This is all surrounding the place known as Niko Temple. This is why it is so colorful and known as one of the most colorful temples in the land, because we did have that heavy influence in that area.
Okay, well, thank you. So in general, you were speaking a little bit about a function, a purpose. I mean, coming through, because there is importance to be here, because it's an important nexus point. But you also mentioned before that some interesting things. One of them is that people would maybe associate you with being a sky guardian. I thought that was interesting, because I wouldn't have thought sky. I would have thought nature, I would have thought something a little bit more grounded, you know what I mean, on the earth itself. So can you go into a little bit more detail of the function, what your contribution is?
As we said about the transmuting of energies, introducing certain codes here, and also exploration. But the reason they say sky guardians as well is because sometimes certain apertures can open in the sky in more of a, as you would say, horizontal way instead of a vertical portal, as you would associate a doorway. Some can open this way and drop beings through. So some of the Japanese people associated us with the sky, and some of your native peoples associated us with the sky, and other cultures around your world, even in Scandinavian and you call it East Indian cultures, and also Middle Eastern, associate some of us with earth and sky. It was their way of describing how they saw things then. Do we use technology? Not so much. It is actually a channeling of particular energies that can open temporary apertures. Even though our main one is in Japan, we can still open a small network if need be, but we need different anchor points. We can even take the, as you would say, the moisture out of the sky, or the energies along with that, and open up temporary apertures as well. Water also plays an influence here with that, as does the air element, as does fire sometimes. We have also been associated with fire in some small respects too, and associated with all of your elements, including metal, just like the Japanese have said with the metal. We have been associated with all of these in some small degree because of our having to use what is at hand on your planet. Would we need to do that in our realm? No, but the materials necessary to conduct certain energies and transmit certain energies and transmute certain energies would have to be gotten here while we are here. Now, the codes that we are delegating to your world, not only did it come from some of those other planetoid Gaia forces, as you would say, but came from us as well. Our original mission was that of exploration and friendship. This still actually holds. We were curious explorers then when we met the original humans and the original races that were here. And they knew of our presence, and we knew of theirs. But later on in history, as some of these beings and people were forgotten, we were forgotten as well. So therefore, we are, as you would say, extending the olive branch to everyone, but in a more energetic and transmutative sort of way. That is the way we can speak, not just this way, but speaking as far as a quantum respect goes, where we can transmute an energy, and that is the particular language in which we are speaking. This is why translating our race name from our original realm would not work here, because your set of physics is too different. But we can actually manipulate certain energies in order to speak out a certain ideal, or you would say sentence structure, but it's much more complex than that.
So before, and I have no other way to say this, but before the darkness came in, it sounds like you just said that when you came through and even came through the apertures that were in the sky that were horizontal, people saw you coming and going. Humans saw you coming and going.
Yes.
Okay. And then darkness came in, and I'm assuming a lowering of frequencies, which then caused a divide, and people could no longer see you. Is that what you mean by forgotten?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. So, and now things are going to change, and so there's going to apparently, unless you guys choose not to, going to be a point in which you're going to be seen again.
Indeed, yeah, the new energies that have culminated over the past several 100,000 years or so have actually been brewing, as you would say, up to this point. Even though we have made many attempts to actually communicate with people, we have noticed that people have not been ready at certain intervals and at certain times in your history, even as far back as just prior to any of your current written histories. Even though 500,000 years ago, as you would say, is when the darkness came, and then created new humans out of the bones of the old. And this is something that has actually taken place. We actually came in just prior to try to greet some of your other ancestral lines that had been rebooted. This did not end well, and it almost started warfare amongst some of your kind, so we had to back off. Then we introduced ourselves further on in your histories when we saw your Atlantean period. We were welcomed a little bit at that time in your Lemurian period, but again, certain, let's just say, bloodlines attempted to interfere again, and then we had to retreat into the background. But we have popped in and out periodically throughout your histories and your different ages, your different time frames and timelines. And this has ended up culminating all the way to this point in your histories where everything is about to expand and open up once again. This is also another reason that we are here.
So if, you know, it's pretty tough right now for people with everything going on and having to be more isolated at this current present moment. So one of the interesting things that Chris talked about on the show that he does with the gentleman Viking and Conrad, the Interstellar Council, when they just had Valiant Thor, who again surprised Chris because he came into talking. Chris hadn't seen him in a while. But one of the interesting things that I think was good for him to say and uplifting a little bit, gave a better perspective about current present moment, was, you know, people thought, oh, humanity has horribly failed, oh, humanity isn't ready for things, oh, humanity. But he reminded everyone, but yet, look, there's no violence. And that is one of the things, you know, a very pushing somebody into the lower chakras, into that really big survival. Now, yes, you've got people hoarding, but in general, there really isn't any violence. There's a lot more cooperation. Even though people are, you know, some people would say people are really being duped, but it doesn't matter. There's so much cooperation and a lot of good things with people trying to help others happening. So I am curious of your perspective of the, you know, again, Valiant Thor basically said an incident occurred. It provided a great opening for certain changes to happen. Why miss the opportunity? Thus, I think one of the common feelings that almost every human has is that they feel something else is going on. And so many people have, you know, said that, whether you know, they are, and again, I don't know the right terms to use. It doesn't matter where they are on the spectrum, where they are vibrating on a frequency. There's a common thread that many, many, many humans are saying there's something else going on. They just have that feeling. So I am just curious about your perspective when this occurred, when the opportunity arose to usher in other things as well. What is your take on how you feel humanity is doing through this process?
We feel, as your Valiant Thor did, that the lack of violent uprisings is impressive for your species and race at this point in time. The type of uprising that your cabal wished is not what you gave them. This is actually impressive to us because you have failed this test, as you would say, many times in your history against them, because they have, as you would say, gaslighted a response, and it doesn't mean they don't deserve that particular response. We are not saying this at all. We have seen the cruelty, we have seen the maliciousness, we have seen the evil. This is not in question. This is actually very impressive how people have actually handled this in some respects, but are there more than a few programmed individuals that are actually clogging your airways and clogging your stores, as you would say? Indeed. And there are a few of them, and they were programmed as such to do these things. Not necessarily just through abduction experiences, but they were indeed mentally programmed by your AI and by your as you would say, draconian agents that are actually in the field in these different stores, and military agents that are in these different stores that are actually gathering for what they believe to be a staging of what you would call a false alien invasion. They are actually told to go to these spots to actually seize control of these, to actually perform this particular invasion task or help with it in some fashion. This is why there are reptilians with them in these particular locations. They need the human assistance to actually pull this off. However, what will come out of this will be a culmination of different things, not necessarily the plan they had thought of. They're actually, as we are speaking now, wanting to enact this plan and other things that you've heard of happening in the background where kids are being rescued. This is actually happening. Other things that are actually happening in the background aren't as negative as you would think, like Valiant Thor planning on getting rid of some of the Cabal operatives, even though the rest of his kind on Venus scoff at these interferences in human culture. He does not care for that. This is actually something that is also quite interesting to us, to where when certain evils are withdrawn, there's an expansion of balance. This is actually going on. But back to the other thing that was witnessed by you guys today. These particular military were irked at the fact that they were seen, but they don't feel it's going to be an overly obtrusive interference. However, even uttering the fact that they are doing these things will change the dynamic. What I meant by piece of this would still be used, it doesn't mean that they won't try to sell this particular product, let's just say, or sell an invasion, or that certain groups are evil, which in fact there are a couple, but it's the ones that they are working with currently. There are other races that are looking for a chance to actually form a dialogue like ourselves that are actually in captivity. There are other races that are attempting, like the ant people, to change on a laughter spectrum or a positive uplifting spectrum of energy in form of transmuting, very much like ourselves. But in this specific part of the plan, think of it this way. If they could not see your troops being put into key locations until they would just automatically appear as aliens, let's just say, how would you know that they were walking amongst you? How would you know that a being in a different frequency was standing right next to you, like I am doing like this right now? You would not be able to see this, but your humankind has this ability to have, you would say, either an armband or a suit of some sort to be able to shift into certain densities. This was Draconian and Orion technology that was given to them unlawfully so by my dad to accomplish these particular goals, to draw as much energy out of certain points and at certain times of year. If this is delayed even by a small amount of time, they will have to wait to another energetic interval to try it again. This may delay your, as you would say, economic progression. If their plans are delayed, they would end up creating more drama surrounding the coronavirus in order to ensure the most amount of energy absorption from it during that particular interval in your equinoxes and solstices. Just know any impediment that you do against these people, they will attempt at another interval to try again, which means they will elongate their particular schedule out or appear like they are elongating it out in your news programs and in your financial environments. They do not care if this wrecks your particular economic situations. They do not care that it will inconvenience people or scare people, because fear is what some of them are trying to pump out. This is what they are trying to orchestrate. We are just presenting a particular different viewpoint that has not been seen yet until this day, because you have spotted these people. We're not saying other people haven't spotted this, but they do not know what they're looking at. They do not know that there are psychic agents out there. Some call either programmed individuals, or some have called these individuals gang stalking or gang stalkers that target people. This is also some of the jammers that you have seen that psychically jam people. But in these store environments, there are very specific types of people. They are armed soldiers like you would expect, and they do huddle in a cluster so that they can lower the density enough to where certain energies will culminate. This is something that we can interfere with and can only bring about a small portion of their agenda. Even if they enact a small portion, this counts towards their entire plan. Think about it. They have a plan going from left to right, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. If they miss, say, D, they cannot try again until E or F. But if we allow them to have a sliver of their agenda, this will count as an entire full portion of the agenda, which then can be bypassed and not necessarily jumped over and elongating their particular schedule, if that makes any sense.
So it does, and so the tactic that they were using, because it was very interesting that they were scanning, and every person who walked through the door, they were focusing on, like every person. If I heard you correctly, the way that I interpret what you're saying is that they were kind of trying to lower the frequency of anyone who walked through the door that was susceptible to it.
Indeed. This also introduces what you would call the coronavirus, because lowering a particular frequency, especially with your technological base like your 5G, will allow the enhancement of a particular viral strain. The coronavirus is more of a nondescript, as you would say, term. This would allow other viruses to have a, you would say, technological aura around them and register to unknowing physicians as the coronavirus, when in fact you're dealing with a multitude of pathogens, you see, that are activated by your 5G technology, and also within these shopping centers and stores where they know people must culminate, and gatherings that must culminate. They can aim this particular frequency at them, and maybe one in every 10 or one in every 20 or 30 would have the susceptibility in their frequency and the susceptibility in their cells and in their lungs, let's just say, to actually over-exaggerate a flu virus or over-exaggerate a cold or over-exaggerate allergies. And the fear that is on top of that would also amplify these things, sending this wave back and forth and like a ball being volleyed back and forth. This is what these military units are actually trying to accomplish, and when they think the time is right, they would appear and look like a false invasion force, when in fact they are using those stores as actual staging areas where they could get supplies from. So
it's interesting, because my assessment then, if I had to give an overall assessment on what I figured their success rate was, just from my experience today, I'd say they must be extremely disappointed, because it seemed to me that people were not mad, not angry. They were, actually many people, I think, were kind of happy the store didn't have as many people in it. The stores are starting to stock up now with more supplies, so that scare time frame seems to be, not as scary, although the toilet paper aisle is still empty. But I mean, so it would seem to me they must be unhappy with the results so far of their attempts.
Indeed, yes, they are unhappy that they cannot get further. This is why, again, they were allowed to enact a sliver of their plan, you see. Even though it was not necessarily in some of the time frame that they would have liked, they actually took control of the situation with only a portion of their plan, one that was not as lethal as they would have liked to enact the next stage of their plan, but they're having to deal with it as it goes along, you see. This is not necessarily completely what they had planned, but they're actually thinking they are dealing and adapting to it, when in fact they are actually in complete panic over this, or at least their superiors are.
They must
you see.
be, yeah, because this is just not causing this enormous, I mean, people are trying to be cooperative, people are trying to be understanding. I think people are starting to feel reassured because they are seeing the stores stock up on, and get so there must be a whole nother group, because it's always a chess game. So there must also be a whole nother group who's trying to really ensure, bam, we're getting the stuff back into the stores. Bam, we're going to try and do this. So they're on a bigger stage. There has to be some other groups trying to do everything they can to not cause the panic or the fear or the whatever, to counterbalance, or actually it feels like to me doing even a better job, not, helping humanity maintain some sense of calm.
Indeed, yes, unity is actually killing this, not only this viral mutation, as you would say, but it is actually killing their plans, or at least dumbing down their plans, or dialing it down. As what was always said to you, they must always enact the timeline in which they were, as you would say, bred upon, let's just say. But enacting it on your own, that you're on now, which coincides with them, and I'm speaking of Draconian and Orion as well, they cannot get the results that they want because of these uprisings that they thought were going to take place, and a civil war they thought was going to take place out of this as well, along with fake alien invaders. This is something that cannot completely happen. I am not saying that they are not going to attempt something, when in fact in the next year or so, even before this year is over, you will see something of that nature. But to elongate the coronavirus out past a certain time would not necessarily completely serve them, nor would it serve humanity. So therefore a balance between these two sides, and we're not saying we're part of the yield per se. We are just observing the results of what is going on and transmuting energies appropriately and helping people out, not necessarily these other people, these military and draconian beings. We're helping other people out maintain that calm and that unity, even though it may seem like people are not saying no. They are indeed saying no, because they are not giving into the gaslighting that your cabal is putting out.
Exactly. So again, I know everyone, this obviously is challenging, but we didn't go into this darkness so that everyone was expecting. And so kudos to absolutely everyone for doing the best that you can right now. I know you didn't have very long, and I'm looking at the clock going, oh, we've been talking for a while now. So I'm just going to turn it over to you for any last words you'd like to say.
Thank you. It is good that people, even if you do not see this broadcast from us, you will actually be able to hear the vibes that come out of this, as it is actually, as you would say, dumped into your benevolent Akijic Earth grid and benevolent galactic grids, as of this moment, you would say. It is good that you are not giving in to the fits of violence, even though revolution in what you're thinking would be most apt in a different time. And saying no in that way has always worked thus far. You are actually saying no right now by not giving in to the matador. You are not becoming the charging bull in a china shop, let's just say. No pun intended on either end of that particular thought thread there. But are there times where that particular warrior is necessary? Yes, most certainly. But you are actually you are at the beginning stages of actually truly transmuting that energy into a more unified front and a more passive front. And we are not saying not to defend yourselves if suddenly things would turn sour or rotten. That would be asinine. Just like we've said, we are pacifistic by nature, but we would defend our people and our realm if necessary. We are not saying that not to do these things, because we would do these things and we have done these things. But in this current situation, the reason dear Valiant Thor was so impressed is because humanity has never gotten to this stage. They have gotten up to this point and always backtrack. They're not backtracking this time, everyone, even though it may appear with the whole toilet paper thing that they have, and that they failed the test, which in fact, the ones giving a certain test in that particular area, yes, did they fail that one? Indeed. But we're saying overall, and we're not saying another race didn't initiate a test here either. We are not saying that there isn't a test going on as well to observe whether people are ready for disclosure. Yes, indeed, that is also going on. We told you there are a multitude of things happening currently. But within all of these layers, humanity still, at this stage, has, for the most part, and the majority, aside from very small, minor, isolated instances that never made your news programs, Valiant Thor made sure of some of those, but the grand majority do not want a global conflict. They do not want it, even if they think they want it. They know somewhere in their heart and their energy, they do not want it. So therefore, they're not necessarily becoming obedient. They're actually saying no to the oppression. They're actually saying no to what they feel the oppression is. Even though it can seem scary that people are not defying the power or defying the man, as you call it, or the establishment, they are actually doing so in a different way that has never been completely on mass scale ever been accomplished on your world currently. And this is why Valiant Thor and a multitude of other races are extremely impressed with the reaction. So thank you everyone for listening to the sounds of our voices. We will be in touch with other updates as they arise. Thank you. Ooh. Oh, we have been talking a while. All right. Yeah. Okay. Well, that group is very interesting, and having them, channel through you, you feel like the texture of their skin, but you can also tell that they're getting a backing from somewhere else. You can tell that there's like a flow going through them, like how dryads have the earth energies flowing through them, and trees have the earth energies flowing through them. They have the same type of life force sustenance coming from their realm into them in the same fashion as a tree would bring up nutrients and energies. And how a dryad would operate is how they are operating. And that's very, very interesting. And there's actually more than one here, actually. There's a whole group of them watching. I thought it was just one, but there's probably like a dozen or so or more. And they have, I can see them, they also have like this pointed like branch, like I want to call it hair, but it's like branches that stick out, and they like I said, they appear to be female, and they're different colors too. Like some of them are like the different colors of the temple, like different. Also, some are different silvers and different golds and different reds and oranges, and yes, I know vermilion. That's the name of the orange that's at the other temple. They put more likely influence that color too, but a mixture. But yeah, that they even have some earth tones, like in the southwest. There's a few that are like Sedona dirt red and like kind of like an orangey, like tan coloring. That's mixed together, like a pottery type color. And it's actually quite interesting. Some are even like a white coloring too. Depends So that there's even like a mixtures of blues and grays and stuff in there too. So like like different plants have different colorings too, but they all look kind of similar, different heights. They're like we have similar looks in different races and such, and you can actually feel like you can actually feel them. Their heads almost resemble almost like an onion with the fuzz at the top. It's they kind of look like that. But they have hair that kind of goes back like this, but they look kind of like an onion. And so, in a way, onion and a tree put together. Yeah. So, that's very interesting. Oh, you're having to go now. Okay. They'll be back later eventually. So, even though this is going to be on our Patreon, and I will release this here soon from the time of this broadcast, which is it is April 5th, 2020, the evening of at 8:05. So I will release this more than likely in the next week or so from the time we are speaking this. So this has been an excellent episode of A Talk with the Elementals. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.